Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, Ticcing Together. As always, the goal of this channel is to provide education about and to raise awareness as to what it's like living with Tourette syndrome. If you guys are new here, my name is Carly. I'm 27 years old and I was diagnosed with Tourette syndrome at the age of 12. So it's been a fairly long journey of living with tics and figuring out how to navigate the world of Tourette's. I will say Tourette's is a disability. It definitely makes my life a lot harder. But I have this channel here to educate and advocate and hopefully make the world for people living with Tourette's a better place. With that being said, if you'd like to stay tuned to Tourette's awareness content and help me, and help me with my goal, please subscribe to my channel and ring that notification bell to stay tuned to all of my content here at Ticcing Together. I would really appreciate that. Unfortunately, today's video is not going to be a fun, light-hearted video. And if you've seen the title of this video, you likely already know what the gist of this entails. Throughout my life, I've been bullied, harassed, mistreated, and discriminated against for my Tourette's. It's not easy living with a disorder that has such a negative stigma that surrounds it, as well as such kind of like a joking comedic vibe with it. So many people don't think Tourette's is hard to live with. They think it's just this funny kind of like haha. Also, they think you can get away with saying or doing whatever you want. These are all misconceptions, and Tourette's is a challenge to live with. Today, I'm going to be talking about my workplace discrimination story with my Tourette's because, oh my lord, it is a doozy, and I haven't publicly talked about this yet, and I feel like in order to heal, I need to address it publicly and talk about it because this genuinely has caused me a lot of trauma, a lot of hardship, and I need to just get it out there in the open. I'm also using my new microphone like this. I'm holding it instead of clipping it to my shirt because I feel like a newscaster and I love these vibes. So I hope you guys like it too. The audio does sound better and it's more fun for me. So that's why I'm doing that today. I'm gonna try and recount everything that happened over the 8 years I worked at this establishment. And I might forget some things because honestly, 8 years is a long time to work at a single place and I had so much mistreatment there. And I'm honestly like shocked that I lasted that long there. But I felt like I wouldn't get hired anywhere else if I were to leave, and I felt there was a whole thing. So let's get into the story time of my workplace discrimination story. So in the year 2016, I got hired at a bookstore, and this store was like my dream job. I love to read. I love like that cute little like bookstore vibe, you know? Like if you know, you know. I love a good bookstore. And so I was hired there in 2016 and I was so excited to start. Obviously I had Tourette's at this time, like I was diagnosed years earlier. But in the interview process, I didn't let anyone know that I had Tourette's and I was fine with it because I am on medication. I've been to therapy. As I quote, I am a master suppressor. I'm really able to suppress my tics like really, really well. So when I was at work, I would never tic. And if I did, I would be hiding in the bookshelves where there were no customers and I would be letting out subtle tics. I wouldn't let out any vocal tics. Like I was very strategic in the way I would tic at work. And for the first 3 years of working there, I didn't tell my management that I had Tourette's. And honestly, I wasn't planning on telling them at all that I had Tourette's because it was fine. It wasn't impacting my work at all. I did have some days where I missed work due to Tourette's, but I would just call in with a regular sick day and not tell them like, hey, I'm having a bad tic day. I would just be like, hey, I'm sick. And they would just mark me off as having a sick day and that was fine. It wasn't like I took advantage of it. It was just something that people take sick days, people get sick. And so maybe once every few months I would take a day for my tics. Fast forward 3 years into working at this bookstore. We changed management a lot. In retail, you will go through a cycle of managers, especially where I worked. We were always changing managers. People were getting fired. People were switching jobs. Like we were always cycling through management. And so 3 years in, it was basically all new management except for one guy that had stuck there since I was hired. And for the most part, those 3 years were pretty okay. I was threatened to be fired for my sick days, but I didn't think they could fire me for like actually being genuinely unable to work. Like I had proof and stuff. So that never happened, but I was threatened a lot. They're like, you're gonna lose your job. And like, they cornered me in the office a lot and like asked me like what was my problem a lot. And I never told them I had Tourette's. I didn't feel like I had to. So 3 years in, we get a new female manager. Let's call her Daphne. Daphne was really nice. She tried to get to know the staff really well and would try to become like friendly with the staff, which I didn't totally mind because I had a lot of like negative interactions with the management beforehand, literally threatening to fire me over illness. And so I was like, it's nice having a manager trying to get to know me. Fast forward to one day, about 3 years in, as I said, I was having a lot of tics. And if you know me, during tic attacks, and anyone with Tourette's, during tic attacks, it's really hard to suppress tics. And so I was trying to hide in the aisles and tic privately and not let customers or management know. But Daphne ended up seeing me do like a neck jerking tic. And she was like, Carly, are you okay? Like, what's wrong? And I was like, oh yeah, I'm fine. Like, just, it's all good. Nothing's wrong. And I thought nothing of it. I was kind of like humiliated that she had seen because I don't like people seeing my tics and I get embarrassed. But I was like, she's not gonna make a big deal out of it, right? I was wrong. The next day, I am in a closet, like cleaning at work. I'm cleaning in the closet and I hear the door open and I turn around and it's Daphne. And she literally barricades herself in front of the door so there's no way I can get out. And I was like, oh, hi, like, what's wrong? And she was like, you need to be honest with me right now. And I was like, okay, like, did I do something? Like, is everything okay? Not even thinking of the tic attack the other day. And she's like, what was wrong with you the other day? I've noticed, I've been watching you, like, you've been having some weird jerky movements. Like, I've been seeing you not being yourself. What is wrong? And I was like, oh, do I have to tell her? Like, I was in my head like, oh my gosh, like she's noticed, but like it hasn't been affecting my work at all. Like, I've been at work just having some movements while I work. And so I was like, I've just haven't been having an off time. And she was like, no, Carly, be real with me. Like, we know, all of the management have noticed there's something wrong with you. Like, what is it? And I was like, in that moment, I was like, I'm not gonna get out of this. I know I'm not gonna get out. She's literally locked me in this closet, like arms wide at the door. She's not gonna let me out. And so I was like, I took a deep breath and I was like, okay, Daphne, I have Tourette Syndrome and what you've been seeing are tics and I can't control them. Like, do you know anything about Tourette's? And she was like, oh yeah, like Tourette's, I've heard of it before. Like, I know it causes you to do like movements and sounds and stuff, but I didn't realize that was what you were dealing with. And I was like, yep, that is it. And I'm sorry, like it obviously hasn't affected me in the 3 years I've been here. Honestly, sometimes I will just be a little bit ticky, but like it doesn't affect my ability to work. I'm fine. And Daphne was like, okay, like I guess I'll let you out now, but like we're gonna have to talk about this later. And I was like, why? Like, it's not a big deal. Like, I've literally worked here 3 years already. And she was like, yeah, I'm gonna have to like come back to you about this. And I was like, okay. So I go back to work, not thinking anything of it, even though I felt humiliated that I was cornered in a closet and begged to tell her what was wrong with me. And she literally did use those words, like, what's wrong with you? And so I finished my shift and I was kind of nervous to go back to work the next day. I forgot to add, ever since being threatened to be fired in the first few years of working there, every shift I went to, I was like panicked. I would have some panic attacks before work. I would have severe anxiety before work. And I was genuinely afraid of management. Like, I was so scared of what they could or would do to me, because I'd been threatened so many times to be fired for being sick, because I was a great employee. I was one of their best employees, if I'm gonna toot my own horn, but like I was a really good employee. I knew so much about books. I knew so much about the product they sold, and I would always upsell. Like, I was a really good salesperson. Fast forward to the next shift, I come in and my general manager is there and he's like, Carly, like, we need to talk. And I was like, okay, like in my head, I was like, great, Daphne must have told them. And he says, in order for you to work here, you're gonna have to get these 8 forms filled out by your family physician. And right now you cannot work for us. You are currently a liability. You are a safety concern for yourself and our company. And we basically do not trust you to work here until you get all of these forms proving that you have Tourette's, proving that you will not hurt yourself or others in the workplace, and basically proving that you're gonna be okay to work for us. And he also added, you will not be scheduled until you get these forms filled out, and we will not be paying you. And during this time, I was a college student. I was literally in university and I needed money to pay tuition. Like, that's why I was working. So I was like, what the heck? Like, I'd been working there for 3 years with 0 issues regarding my tics. And now I was being cornered by the general manager telling me that I had to get 8 forms filled out by my family doctor, basically proving that I wasn't this liability. And I was, again, humiliated. I had to go home that day. He wouldn't let me work the shift I was scheduled for. I got rice. And all the shifts I was scheduled for in the future were taken off the calendar, off the schedule. And so immediately I was like, this seems illegal. Like, this seems wrong. Why? Like, I wouldn't have even told these people that I had Tourette's if Daphne hadn't cornered me in the closet. Anyways, I found out through my coworkers that Daphne had told all 6 of the management, but not only the management, she had started rumors to multiple of the staff members at the bookstore that Carly has Tourette's and that she's like some liability, because people were asking where I was. And Daphne took it upon herself to tell people my secret that I had Tourette's. Like, she was telling people something that I would never have told anyone, because I was so humiliated about it. I was so ashamed of it, and I was really good at hiding it, and it didn't affect my ability to work. I would always show up on time. I was very tidy. It was insane. It was insane that Daphne spread these rumors to staff members. I can understand telling the other managers because, like, they have to kind of work together. But my coworkers finding out that I had Tourette's through Daphne, I was like, this is really wrong. One of the forms to get filled out by my doctor had to be faxed to like the employee like wellness place that my company went through. And I had to get it on my file that I had Tourette's and that I was basically, to them, a liability, even though I wasn't. And so I went to my doctor and I got these forms filled out that they requested. And my doctor was literally like, why are you here for this? Like, he knew I'd been working there for the 3 years. And he was like, haven't you been at this place for a long time? Like, why are they asking this now? And even my doctor was like, this is sketchy. Like, you should get what they're saying in writing, because like, this is very, very strange to be like asked to get 8 forms filled out about my Tourette's. So I get the forms filled out and I was like, this is a little bit sketchy, but I need to get this job. Like, I need to keep this job. I literally am a student and I need to pay my bills, so I have to keep this job. And I gave the 8 forms back to my management, and then I went in to work my next scheduled shift, which was like 3 months later with no pay. And they were like, what are you doing here? And I was like, what do you mean? I'm scheduled to work. And they were like, I don't think you can be here today. And I was like, why? Like, I got everything you asked for. I got all these forms filled out, and they were like, yeah, like, I think we need more time to think on it. And I was like, what does this even mean? Like, I have Tourette's. It's a neurological disorder. I wasn't even going to disclose this to you guys. And because of freaking Daphne, now everyone and their dog knows about it. So my manager sent me home. And again, I wasn't scheduled for about a month. I didn't realize at the time what they were doing was illegal. I don't even know if it was, but I think it was. If you guys know if this is illegal, please let me know in the comments. But I was like, they're withholding pay. They're not scheduling me. They're literally spreading rumors about me. Like, what am I supposed to do? Anyways, in the meantime of this, the general manager was shifting. So we got a new general manager from the guy. It changed over to a woman named Maria. We'll call her Maria. That's not her real name. Anyways, Maria, apparently, I learned about this afterwards, but I'm gonna tell you the story of how I learned about it. The manager that I told you guys about that had worked there since I got the job 3 years prior, this was probably 4 years in now. The manager that continued to work there from the beginning was a guy named Jeffrey, and he was so nice. I always felt very comfortable around Jeffrey. But Maria, the new manager, was actually behind the scenes without anyone knowing, blackmailing Jeffrey to try and get Jeffrey to be the one to fire me, because Maria was too scared and thought it would go to HR. Because Maria knew that if you fired me for a disability, that would be discrimination. And so Maria told Jeffrey behind my back to watch me like a hawk to see if she could see me doing anything that would warrant me being fired. when realistically, it was because of my Tourette's that she wanted me fired because I was a liability, whatever the hell that means. I didn't know this during the time. I had no idea that Jeffrey was watching me like a hawk. But there was one day I actually fainted at work due to like, I don't even know why I fainted. I think I was just dehydrated and I fainted. And so I paged into the microphone to my coworkers, can someone please help me? I literally just fainted. And so my coworker comes and gets me, and then the next thing I know, I'm dragged to the office. Jeffrey was sitting in the main chair and he motions for me to have a seat across from him. And he says, do you know why you're in here today? And I got rice. And I was like, well, I just fainted and I don't feel very good. And he's like, exactly. You've been having so many medical issues and it's become a burden on our company. And I was like, all I can think of was like, sometimes I've been sick, I have Tourette's, and I just fainted. And he was like, honestly, Carly, I need you to take a deep look within yourself and realize, am I right for this company? Because we don't think you're right for this company. And I had been there for 4 years and I was like, I literally felt like a punch in the gut because I knew this was about my Tourette's and not because I fainted. And he was like, you need to look within yourself and I'm gonna give you 2 weeks. We'll reconvene in 2 weeks and you tell me if you feel like you deserve to be here and like reevaluate your life choices basically. And I was like, oh my Lord, the one manager I actually liked is now against me. Like I have no one here. I was genuinely terrified of going to work for the next 2 weeks. I ended up having a sit down with Jeffrey in the 2 weeks later and he was like, so what did you think? About like, have you thought about your choices? And I was like, yes, I have. Like, I think I'm capable of working here. And I was really just that typical like robotic employee just saying yes or no when I needed to. Like I was like, I'm here, I'm gonna work for you. Like, please don't fire me. Like, I promise you I will be fine. And he basically made me like commit to not having any health concerns for the next little while. And I was like, how can I guarantee this? Like, what the heck? We were cycling through management and I had a lot of other managers who would see me ticking and give me weird looks and be like literally that like disgusted, like kind of like glance. Like they'd do the once over of like, ew, basically when they'd see me ticking. And they knew that if they said anything, they would get in trouble. So it was all very sneaky on the down low. The story changes when Maria randomly got fired. I also don't know if I mentioned Daphne got fired. But anyways, Maria gets fired and the whole story's in shambles because we're like, we lost our general manager. What do we do? No one knows why she was fired. And then Jeffrey pulls me into the office that day that she got fired. And I was like, what now? Like, honestly, what now? And he says, Carly, sit down. Like, I need to have a talk with you. And I was like, why? Like, I didn't say that, but in my head, I was like, oh my God, he's gonna like fire me again. I'm gonna be in trouble again. And he says, Carly, I just want to start off by saying I am so sorry. And I was like, what? And he literally was the one that told me that Maria was conspiring to get me fired and that he had been blackmailed by her to try and fire me. He was the one that was given like the challenge of having to fire me. And he said, when you fainted that day, I am so sorry I treated you that way. But Maria told me if I didn't, she would fire me, like him, the manager. And I was like, oh my gosh. And he said he took the situation to HR, telling them that Maria was trying to unjustly fire me and him and basically threatening both of us because I had Tourette's and because he was the manager on my file. And I don't know why Maria had this like vendetta against me trying to get me fired, but rumor had it that it was because of my Tourette's. And when I asked Jeffrey, he said, yes, it is because of your tics and because she sees me as a liability. So immediately I was like, oh my gosh, Jeffrey, I'm so sorry that she put you through that, but also that she put us through that. And he was like, honestly, Carly, like I will look out for you. I will never let this happen to you again. Like, I am so sorry. And I was so thankful that Maria was fired and I had no idea this was going on behind the scenes, but I was so grateful that this was kind of how it was going from now on. And then for the next year or so, it was just subtle jabs about my Tourette's and people would be kind of just like subtly like poking me about it. The management, at least. The management were honestly, besides Jeffrey, really, really bad about my Tourette's, and they would kind of just like, if I ever had a tic attack or if I ever needed like a 5-minute break to tic in the back room, they would like roll their eyes, they'd be rude. It was just awful. Anyways, fast forward to COVID. I had been working there now for 5 years about, and we got new management again. And unfortunately, Jeffrey had to leave. So he told me that he was moving to a different location because there were multiple locations of this bookstore. I got rice. Je t'aime. And he told me that he was moving stores, and he said to me, and looking back, I don't know if this was a nice thing or kind of like a low-key slap in the face. He said to me, Carly, you were worth all of the work I put into you. On one hand, that's very nice because he says I was worth it. But on the other hand, all the work I put into you, I don't know. What do you guys think? I thought it was like nice at the time, but looking back on it, I'm kind of like, was this kind of like a weird backhanded thing? Like, I don't know. Anyway, Jeffrey's gone, and now my comfort manager is gone. We got a new manager again, new general manager, new like sales manager. We had 6 managers at a time. And I had to get to know these new managers, and basically they had to get to know my Tourettes again. Because since it was on my file, any new person that came, any new manager basically knew right away, oh, Carly has Tourette's. Again, I wish I wouldn't have told them, but frickin' Daphne. I told you guys that I worked there for 8 years total, and that is true. And so for the last 3 years of my work there, I was still treated pretty poorly, to be honest. There were times where I would be having tic attacks where I would literally be like, can I please be excused? Can I take a break? And they would decline me breaks. There was one time I remember I was having a dystonic tic. And if you guys don't know what a dystonic tic is, it's basically where your muscle or body part locks for a period of time. You don't know how long the period's gonna be, and your body part is just stuck like that. So unfortunately, both of my wrists were locked in this position, like very like this, both of them. It honestly took 2 hours to unlock, but I went to my manager at the time and I was like, hey, I can't really work right now because my wrists are stuck. She rolled her eyes and said, okay, just go sit in the manager's office and wait it out. And I was like, is there no way you'll let me be picked up? Like, I can't physically work and I don't know how long this is gonna take. And she was really heckin' rude about it and basically just said, go sit in the manager's office and wait it out because we need you here and we can't have you wasting our time, basically. So again, 2 hours later, my wrists finally unlock, but by the time they're unlocked, I am in agony because my wrists were literally like stuck like this, like it's a pulled muscle for 2 hours, and they expect me to go back to work and be fine. And she basically said, like, just don't have any more ticks for the rest of the shift. And I don't think they realized, like, I can't choose when I tick or like if I tick. Sure, I can suppress really well, but they expected me to suppress all the time, and that is not okay. The next occurrence, which wasn't good, was I was having a bout of punching tics. A few years ago, I had a very severe case of punching tics where it was my most common tic. And so during this shift, I was on the floor and I took my fist and I started punching the back of my head. And my manager saw it and he's like, whoa, Carly, you can't be on the floor doing this, like you're gonna scare customers. And I was like, oh, okay, like, will you let me go to the break room? And he's like, no, you can't take a break, but you can go to the manager's office and work on some online modules. And I was like, okay, but I can't really focus when I'm punching myself. And he was like, it's okay, like, just go work on these because you still have to be working. You're on the clock. Like, we're paying you to be here and you're not gonna take a break. And so I was on the computer for an hour punching the back of my head, and I gave myself a concussion because he wouldn't let me take a break. So that was hard, and he basically just brushed it off as like, oh, sorry, like, I didn't know it was that bad. Bro, you saw me punching the back of my head like I was like going insane, and he was like, just go work on these modules. That was horrible. There were so many other times in the last 3 years of me working at this store where I was threatened to be fired again. I would be cornered in the office and they would say, Carly, like, you have to reevaluate why you're here. And I was like, I'm here because I love it here. I love working here. I love books. I love customer service. Like, I'm a good salesperson. I'm here because I love it. And they were like, well, you've had a lot of like issues here, basically. And they would always dance around it. And I know they did that because they didn't want to get in trouble. But I knew what they were talking about. And they were like, yeah, like, I don't think you're a really good fit for us. But like, they just couldn't fire me because they knew they couldn't. But they kept threatening, and that was so scary. I got rice. As someone with an anxiety disorder, going to a workplace where literally weekly you're told you're gonna be fired is so bad for your mental health. And I felt like I was going insane. I felt like I was a horrible employee. I felt like I was some outcast they hated. And I felt like if I were to quit, I would never get hired anywhere else because they wouldn't be good references. They would obviously not let me use them as a reference because they didn't like me. They wanted me fired. So fast forward to a year ago. I was moving cities and I wanted to change location from the store I was working at to a different bookstore under the same kind of ownership because there was such thing as a store transfer. And a lot of people did store transfers because you were able to go from a different store to a different store and they would allow it. And so I asked my manager, a new manager this time, I asked her, I was like, hey, would you allow me to do a store transfer because I'm moving and once I move, I won't be able to do the commute here. And she was like, oh, I don't think you'd be a good fit at that store. And I was like, I'd be willing to change hours. Like I'd be willing to do the ride there because it's a little bit shorter than here. Like, please, will you put my name in for the transfer? And she was like, I'll call them. But honestly, with your record here, I don't think they're going to accept you. And I was like, what does that even mean? Like, these people made me feel insane. And so I was like, will you just ask them? And she was like, fine, I'll put in the request. I ended up quitting at the end of last summer and I didn't get accepted for the store transfer. I wonder why. I might be missing some of the stories, but this store made me crazy. And it was all because I got cornered in the closet that one time, had to disclose my Tourette's to literally everyone. And after that day, I was never treated the same. Never. It was humiliating being watched by my managers and fellow coworkers when I was ticking and kind of trying to hide my tics and mask them. People now knew I had Tourette's and they were always like whispering and being like, oh, it's Carly with Tourette's. Like, it was really hard and none of my coworkers liked me. I had one coworker that I was friends with that I still talk to. And I talked to her the other day actually, and I was like, hey, like, was what they did okay to me? And she was like, you could have sued them and won. And I was like, oh, so she understood that what they did to me was not okay. And I was like, maybe it isn't okay what they did. Fast forward to like a few weeks ago, I went to the store that I wanted the transfer to. And lo and behold, one of my old managers was transferred there as their manager. And I was like, oh, hi, like, how are you? And then in like, kind of like a casual way, I was like, oh, I really miss working at the bookstore, just like trying to make conversation. And he looks at me with the most like fake, pitiful look. And he's like, yeah, like we tried everything in our cards to get you here, but it just didn't work out. And I felt like he was just like slapping me across the face because I know they didn't want me there due to my Tourette's and due to my whatever the case, my horrible being a liability. They didn't want me there. And so I was in my head like, did I just hear him say this? Like, he completely basically made fun of me in the most condescending, pitying tone. Like, we tried so hard. And I could see him like kind of like roll his eyes and smirk. And I was like, I do not like you. I hate what this establishment did to me. They treated me like absolute dog poop. And there's probably so many more stories that I'm missing, but oh my gosh, those 8 years I worked there, I would always put on a happy face and say, yeah, I love working where I work. But looking back on it, they treated me like I was not human. They extremely discriminated against me. They bullied me. They harassed me. The amount of times they threatened me is like bonkers. It's more than like probably 30 times. And my coworkers noticed and they would never be on my side because they didn't want to be on the bad books of the managers. And so it was always me being the punching bag. And it was all because I have Tourette's, which is like, that's discrimination. That is literally grounds for discrimination. They wanted me fired. And even though they didn't fire me, they made my life living hell for 8 years. It was awful. And I look back on it and I want to cry because they bullied me. They were so mean. The only nice one was Jeffrey, and he moved, and that sucked because then I was given these managers that continuously bullied me and harassed me and threatened me. And I toughed it out because I didn't think I would get hired anywhere else. Oh, and when I asked my 2 managers at the end that I kind of liked to use as a reference, they were kind of like tiptoeing. They're like, well, we know your history, but like we can kind of lie about it and say you'd be a good fit. And I was like, what does this even mean? They'd lie about it because I was such a good worker and they just didn't like me. And I guess that's the end of it. I quit and they didn't do anything for me. They were like, sure, we're not gonna get you, we're not gonna recommend you to another job. You're not gonna have us as references. You're basically out of luck because we didn't like you. And I was like, they didn't say that, but that is the total vibe they gave. So I moved and I still don't have a job and I have no references and I worked there 8 freaking years. That's basically the story, but it was really bad in the moment, especially at those beginning years when I was denied pay, when I was denied shifts, when I was denied basically access to working at the place that I worked. It was horrible being called a liability, being called a safety concern, being called all of these things that I was not, because my Tourette's is not that big of a deal. Like Tourette's, sure, it's a disability, but I can work. I'm okay. I don't have a super severe case. I'm able to suppress, but it was just horrible. Those years were horrible. And I will never forgive those managers for the hell they put me through. Oh man, I'm heated. If you guys relate to this at all, I would love to hear from you in the comments. I wouldn't love it if you relate to this, but I would like to hear if there's anyone that has gone through something similar so I feel less alone. But I would also like to hear if you guys think this is bad what they did or if I'm overreacting. Like, is this illegal? Is this legal? Is this discrimination? Is this bad? I want to hear from you guys because I truly don't know, but I think it's bad. Like, I think this is bad. If you guys want to support the channel and like this video, please give it a big thumbs up. Leave a comment down below saying hi to me, telling me what you would like to see in future videos, or again, letting me know if this was not okay. Because like, I don't think it was okay, but maybe I'm overreacting. Again, if you like this channel, please subscribe and ring that notification bell to stay tuned to all of my content. I would really appreciate that. We've recently reached over 103,000 subscribers, which is amazing. I am so grateful to all of you and I love you all so much. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, we are learning together, we're laughing together, and we're ticking together. I love you guys so much. Bye!